Blizzard just released some changes for Hunter and Priest for Season of Discovery Phase 1. This is going to be affecting the rest of Phase 1 into Phase 2, and it's definitely also going to be affecting Phase 2. I do not think these would be the last changes before Phase 2, but with that in mind, we're going to get into this. Let's go. So for Hunter, Marksmanship Hunter is being buffed, and Beast Mastery Hunter is being nerfed. Shocker. And the first thing that we see for Marksmanship is that Chimera Shot weapon damage is being increased to 100 from 85%. Originally, Chimera Shot weapon damage was actually 125%. So from the original launch of the game, this is still a 25% nerf, but it's being reduced in from how much they nerfed it at that time. At that time as well, Beast Mastery Hunter was better than Chimera Shot, and Chimera Shot wasn't really an issue. So I would personally have buffed this a little bit more, as it's not even better than it was at launch when we weren't even using it. For Explosive Shot, the base damage was increased by 25% for attack power modifiers. This is, a good change, but it's not really going to change much. Like, the situations you use it in is just not very much. You can use it for leveling, you can use it for trash packs in the raid, but like when it comes to PvP and killing bosses, it doesn't matter. It's not very good because it's not what it originally was, where it was a single target, just nuke. And now it's just kind of AoE, and it's kind of meh. And the reason it's kind of meh is because it would be decent if it wasn't in the rune slot that we get pretty much our main damage from. So don't really expect much from that. Thirdly, the mana cost of Chimera Shot, Explosive Shot, Carve, Kill Command, and Flanking Strike are all reduced by 50%. This is really good because spamming Chimera Shot costs a ton of mana. Spamming Explosive Shot costs a ton of mana. Kill Command didn't cost too much mana. Carve, not too much mana, but Flanking Strike was a decent amount of mana, and so now melee weaving will be costing a little bit less, as well as our Marksmanship spamming Chimera Shot isn't going to hurt as bad. This is good for Marksmanship, and there's a chance we see Hunters swap to it based on what the logs are going to be tomorrow. Because I see a lot of people trying out Marksman and still sticking to Beast Mastery, and depending on what the logs are, we'll switch or we'll not switch. We'll see. Because it'll also depend on the Beast Mastery changes, which are the Beast Mastery rune got nerfed, and the health and damage that you got to your pet was reduced by 10% from 30 to 20%. And the focus regeneration that your pet got was reduced to 50% from 80% for a 30% nerf. This is pretty big, and it's probably going to have Hunters switching to be using their cat and not a Wind Serpent. This is because Wind Serpent, the Lightning Breath costs a lot of energy, and the cats doesn't really require as much energy, but it does less damage. It's like more often, while the Lightning Breath is less awesome, but it hits for way harder. And because of this, we're probably just going to switch to cat, because we're going to be getting less mana or less energy, and it's just better for the cat at that point. For priests, we are going to be getting a base healing done by runes reduced by 20%. That's a pretty significant nerf. They say priests are outperforming other healers significantly, which is 100% true. And this adjustment will apply to Prayer of Mending, Penance, and Circle of Healing. Now, in terms of the numbers for this, for my priest, I've tested it with my priest because I have 100 spell power exactly on my priest, and then I also wanted to see what the scaling was while taking off all of my gear. So if you actually just hover over the ability, it'll tell you the base, but Penance, based on what I was getting, scales with 30% of your spell power, and Prayer Mending scales with about 43% of your spell power at 100 spell power. So at 100 spell power, I was getting about 200 healing per bolt, and because of the nerf, it's going to be going to about 167 per bolt, which is a 34 healing loss. And the total that your Penance is healing is going to go from about 600 at 100 spell power to 498 at 100 spell power. For Prayer of Mending, at 100 spell power, it was doing 193 healing per proc, but it's going to be going to 163 healing per proc, with the full healing going from 965 to 815. It's not a massive nerf, but it's a pretty decent nerf. It might be kind of hard to heal solo as a priest now, but we'll see tomorrow with all of the logs if people are still able to do it. If so, priests will still be OP. You'll still see them everywhere. This is not going to like knock priests off their like high pedestal. It knocked them down a peg a little bit, but I still think they're probably the best healer currently. If we look at the priest Discord, this is what all of the base healing changes are. So if you wanted the same healing you're getting right now, in order to get that for the base healing, let's say you didn't have any healing power, you would need 120 healing power to bring it back to the old base values for penance. You would need 261 healing power to bring it back to old base values for Circle of Healing. And for Prayer Mending, you would need 70 healing power to old base values. So it's not as much of a nerf to Prayer of Mending and Penance as it is Circle of Healing, but it is still a nerf nonetheless. So for our raid comp for Phase 2 for Normagon, I personally think this is going to affect things kind of. Originally we had 2 Disc Priests here, but I do think Holy Paladin will probably be replacing our second Disc Priest. I just don't see bringing 2 Priests anymore with the nerfs. Again, they're not massive nerfs, but they're enough to, in my opinion, make it so that you don't really need 2 Disc Priests, and it's totally okay to bring a Holy Paladin. I also think Holy Paladin is going to be actually really good based on other things that I've heard since my original raid comp video. So I think the composition for healers is going to be pretty much every single healer that we can use for the Alliance. For Horde, I have no idea what the slot's going to be, because I'm pretty sure that Resto Shaman is really bad, so you might still be running 2 Disc Priests for Horde. But for Alliance, a Holy Paladin is definitely going to be really good. It also allows us to have that 3rd blessing, where we have 3 Paladins, which is going to be really nice. I also have done some more research, and I think Balanced Druid might not be enough. It's really going to depend on what runes they get, but if Balanced Druid isn't looking very good, which is kind of what I'm thinking is going to happen, personally, I would add in another Fire Mage. And the reason for this is because I think Destruction Warlocks and Fire Mages are actually going to be pretty good next phase. And if you have 2 Fire Mages, you can stack your Improved Scorch even faster and get that Fire buff, that 15% Fire buff from Fire Mages out to your Destruction Warlocks as well, but also your Mages in general. You can get it out faster, and you can be doing way more damage faster. So, because of these changes, I think Hunter may switch to Marksman. They may stay beat Mastery. We'll see tomorrow with the logs. It might be very close. And for Priest, I still think they're the best healer. I just don't think they're as good as they were. Obviously. But I think it's not going to be too bad. I think if you look at this, again, it's a 20% nerf. We were doing 600 with 100 spell power, so now it's going to about 500. Makes sense. And with my Hunter's currently about 1300 HP, so it's still doing over a third of my HP. But again, it's a nerf. It's more like going from 45% to like 35% of my HP. But what do you guys think of these changes? Do you think there'll be more changes? And what do you think they're going to change? Something that I'm looking forward to is hopefully more Shadow Priest buffs before Phase 2. That would be really nice. I don't think really anything else needs a big buff. But actually, Shamans might need a buff. Again, I play Alliance, but as far as I've heard, Shaman tanks are really the only thing that's good for Shamans right now. I heard Ellie Shaman really could use a buff, and I'm pretty sure Resto Shaman is also kind of hurting. But what do you guys think? Leave it in the comments below. If you could, please subscribe. It really helps. If I can get to 1,000, I can hopefully do this more often, and it'd be really nice. But thank you for watching, and peace.